Good morning. I am Kevin Price. Delighted to be with you. Been looking forward to this interview for quite some time. I'm going to spend some time with Price of Business contributor Tom Taormina, and he has got an incredible Right Stuff story. He was involved in the space program in the early years back in the 1960s. And bring some of those best practices that I think you can only get in an environment like NASA to the business world today. And his guest today that we're going to get to spend time with is not only the author of a great book, but someone who's also been a part of that whole space program, and in fact is an astronaut in his own right who took a few trips to outer space, representing the great United States. And his new book, The Orbital Perspective, is going to be a lot of our conversation today. But before we get into that, and before Tom does more to introduce our guests, Tom, tell us about what you do in your company.
Well, top of the morning, Kevin, and looking forward to speaking with Ron. My company, we're called Apollo Business Solutions, strangely enough. In the 14 years I was at Mission Control Houston during Gemini Apollo, we just kind of decided to go to the moon, and we did. And I've been, for the last 45 years, trying to recreate the business model that got us there, and I think I've done it finally after 12 books. So I've been helping companies trying to solve their impossible problems with the same methodology we used to win the space race.
Yeah, I love that. And our guest today?
Ron Garan.
Yeah, Ron Garan. And the book, by the way, The Orbital Perspective, awesome-looking book. Really enjoying it, in fact. Ron, tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, and we've been really looking forward to this. Both Tom and I have been talking this up.
Well, thanks, Kevin. Hi, Tom. Well, I spent the first 15 years of my adult life training to fight the Russians, and then, fast forward a couple of decades, and I'm standing at the base of a rocket waiting to fly to space with a couple of Russian military officers as a fully integrated member of a Russian spacecraft crew. And so that example of international cooperation, that example of what we can do, the great things that we can do when we work together, I think really hit home. And it didn't hit home as much until I actually got to space and saw the great human accomplishment of the International Space Station, and I saw that against the backdrop of our just amazingly beautiful planet. Really created a perspective shift that I wanted to bring back down to Earth. I wanted to bring it down and put it in the context of our rapidly developing, hyper-interconnected global society, and that was the motivation for writing The Orbital Perspective.
Very good. Tom?
Well, Ron, I guess my first question is, what is the message you've put forth in Orbital Perspective?
And the message is basically that, first of all, that nothing is impossible, that we don't have to accept the status quo on our planet. We don't have to accept that the way things are on our planet are the way they have to be. And the secret to being able to solve our problems is to set aside our differences and work together. It's to zoom out to this perspective that we have of our planet from space, where we not only see where all the pieces of the puzzle are, but we see who has them, what value they hold, and we look at things not from a short-term perspective, but we look at things over a very long term and see that even small actions that we take today nudge the trajectory of our global society. And so those are the main messages of the book.
Yeah, there's the old saying, you can't see the forest for the trees.
Exactly.
Getting the orbital perspective certainly helps you overcome that. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I'm just so delighted with that message, Ron, because it's essentially what I've been trying to get across for the last 45 years, is that we don't have to take the status quo of how business is run. And, of course, business has been deteriorating in this country since the 1950s. What we do have to do is rethink, not redo, but rethink our entire business perspective, where everybody wins. We put out products that are free from defects, and that the world is a better place. And I've recently, in the past couple of years, been working with more shuttle astronauts who say, look, we just didn't get taught that. We had to learn that on our own, or read books or watch a movie as to why the space program, how it started, and what the values were. Do you find that to be true, or are you just working for another governmental agency these days?
Yeah, I think, whenever you have a very large bureaucracy, whether it's a government bureaucracy or a corporate bureaucracy, it's going to introduce some challenges to overcome. And really the orbital perspective is not just taking a big picture, it's taking a big picture while synthesizing the small details. The worm's eye view, I borrow a term from my friend and one of my personal heroes, Muhammad Yunus, who talks about the worm's eye details. And so that synthesis is very difficult, I think, in any large bureaucracy, because those at the top are kind of tasked that, their job is to take in the big picture and to look at things, but they tend to look at things from, the next quarterly report view. They tend to look at things, whether they're in the government, maybe the next election cycle. And, we really can't progress with that type of mindset. And the people at the bottom of the bureaucracy, at the lower levels of the bureaucracy, are, focused on the worm's eye details. There's very rarely a synthesis between those two views, and it's even more rare to find a synthesis of those two views, those two sides of the coin, that project over a longer time frame, a time frame that makes progress possible. And I think those are some of the big challenges to face in any big bureaucracy.
Yeah, I'm curious. By the way, can you tell us, it looks like from what I've read from your bio, you've done 4 missions. What years were those missions, by the way, just for point of reference for the audience?
Right, I've done 2 I did 4 spacewalks, maybe that's what you're referring to, but I did 2 missions. I flew on Space Shuttle Discovery in 2008, and that was a 2-week construction mission on board the International Space Station. We brought up and installed the Japanese laboratory to the station, and then I flew for half of 2011 after launching from Kazakhstan on a Russian rocket on the 50th anniversary of the first human spaceflight of Yuri Gagarin, by the way.
Wow.
On the same launch pad that he launched from, and that was, like I said, a 6-month mission, or almost a 6-month mission on board the International Space Station.
That is incredible. Tom?
Well, let me just add to that. I've read a quote of Ron's that says that coming back to Earth in a Soyuz capsule is like going over Niagara Falls in a barrel that's on fire, followed by a high-speed crash. That's very graphic, Ron.
Yeah, the only part of that's attributable to me is the high-speed crash part. The rest is something that Scott Kelly told me that about 2 weeks before I was ready to come home. We had to talk about, we talked on the phone. Scott Kelly is an astronaut that's about to do a 1-year mission, and he was describing to me what I was about to experience because he had already done it, and those are the words that he put. So that credit goes to him.
Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. By the way, what is the website for your book?
It's orbitalperspective.com.
Orbitalperspective.com. Tom, we only have a couple of minutes left. We actually went long, obviously. You know that, Tom. And with this interview, we really needed to. Final thoughts, Tom?
Well, I'm just delighted that we could finally get to talk, and I'm looking forward to ongoing discussions with Ron because it sounds like his generation and my generation share the same interests, values, and imperatives that we've got to get our heads out of our butts and start looking at our future as something we all do together to a common vision, common values, and let's stop this letting our country deteriorate into a socialist state, and let's grab what we've done, what we know we can do, and let's get a new mission, whatever it is. I don't care if we go to Pluto, but the mission is to bring this country back together and to get the set of values that we started with Project Gemini and Apollo, and let's turn this country around. Yeah,
Tom, your website, real quickly.
O-Resonance. It's short for organizationalresonance.com. O-Resonance.
Yep, and then one last time, your website, Ron.
Orbitalperspective.com. And the reason why we have the website is because the book was never seen as an endpoint. It was seen as a start, and hopefully a start of a global conversation around a deeper level of collaboration to solve the problems that we all face together.
Gentlemen, great interview. Do want to remind the listener that they'll also be able to find it not only at priceofbusiness.com, but the national news website, usdailyreview.com. That gets about 1 million hits a month. We're going to have that as a featured article over there. And so thanks to both of you, gentlemen.
Good day.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, great stuff.
Tom.
All right, when we come back, much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here, including this interview, can be found over there at usdailyreview.com. While they're like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter.